Hey there. We're back to our regular lighting. Not everything is completely back to normal. So I'll talk about that later. Because for now we are going in here digging anime out of packages. This packaging is being rather stubborn. Fortunately, the sticker says, fuck it. Alright. So, at the top here we have probably the more important release today, which is My Hero Academia Season 4 Part 2. It's sticky. With static, it's electricity of course, but still. Characters. Okay, so first of all, Region A, English dub. There's room inside to store Part 1. Where did I put Part 1? Maybe just back there. But yeah. And there's special features there, but right now having trouble looking. Just taking a peek at what all we have here. So we want to get up to the inside so we can take a look at this. I was just kind of processing, thinking these people seem like they're on the same team, but they're not. Special features: interview with the voice of Toru, Fan Expo, Funimation. So these stuff. If we go inside, we have more imagery probably from this. We have her actually looking a little more normal, which maybe we see her quirk. I don't remember us being told her quirk. Who's that? That's a new face. Interesting. I think that's him down there as well. I mean, that's what I'd expect, you know. If he's worthy enough to be put on the disc, then he's probably notable. Just trying to think if maybe he's good guy or bad guy. Look. We have a book. Try not to look and think about this stuff too much. Oh, the fuck? Oh, yeah, dentist appointment tomorrow. Ooh. And then we've got Season 4. Okay, I was wondering if that said something else, but this would be a bunch of the extras that come with this version of it. I didn't even get everything out of there. Let's set that aside for now and start taking a peek at some of this stuff. We have hot cold pics, which might go in line with the imagery they had of people with musical stuff. Keyframe collection. Copy of some keyframes. I'm actually setting these to the side. Oh, shiny. And that is not part of this shiny collection. Shiny. Just the 3? This is pretty cool. And then we got stickers. Cool. And so the reason I put those aside instead of in here is I think shouldn't have been too far. But apparently I can't remember what I did with part 1. I probably looked right at it, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and just, put this back in there. So we can then look at Naruto Blu-ray set 2. Probably says the list of episodes somewhere on there. I was just thinking, kind of curious. But we're just going to go on the inside and, take a look. It's pretty straightforward. Goes all the way up to episode 55. Do I remember what happens in which episodes? Cool stuff. I don't know. And last but not least, Ascendance of a Bookworm. I'll do anything to become a librarian. Books were her whole world, and then she woke up in a world without them. Okay, I got the impression this was like an isekai or something like that. Oh, there we go. I was saying I'm having trouble getting through the plastic. Sorry. I see a region A. There is an English dub. Special features are probably this over here. Pretty standard stuff. Promos, clean opening and closing. And we did say it was region A only, so not the importable kind. Happy people. So I think that's our main character. She's just always happy everywhere. So this could be an interesting series. Looks like it's maybe about a girl who's into books, who wakes up in the world without books and introduces books to the world or something. So it could be kind of like that positive building experience. Sort of similar to village building sort of stuff. Anyways, here's this week's anime DVD collection update. So, there's my Hero Academia Season 4 Part 1. So, it's not really much of a dig out, but I will dig it out. There's actually not much to update here. So the only anime I watched was about the first 2 seconds of the first episode of this, because I thought I might try to watch it, and then just random clips from YouTube, mostly of Overlord. But okay, so mostly this is, I guess, just the update on the whole Texas experience. And I think some of y'all are already aware that last week's video was a little bit late because I didn't have power for almost 80 hours. I was able to record the update using the camera's batteries on Tuesday, but I didn't upload it until Thursday after I got power back. And even then I was being very cautious with my power usage. Hence, once I got power back, I was doing work and maybe watching some YouTube videos on the laptop. So I only had the laptops fired up. Because there was still some concern of being expressed by the power company about load, and I decided to take it easy. And mentally, I was and still am in a state where it's hard to do anything to mentally something or the other. So part of the issue is power was back, and then I think late Saturday evening, they don't send out a thing saying to everybody, okay, yeah, everything's good, everybody turn all your shit back on. Especially since the most important thing they're dealing with is as long as I didn't have power, you know, I was still relatively fortunate within that category, just because some people went without for at least 120 hours. Some may still not have power because, you know, they were focusing on big areas, but all the winter weather here caused trees to knock over power lines or short things out or something. So there's bigger areas that were affected and also smaller localized areas. And they started with bigger areas and honed in on smaller areas. And some people probably just never got addressed at all. But that's not going to be in the hundreds of thousands, I think. So it's just going to be for a handful of people fortunate. So the real issue I've been dealing with, other than the fact that, you know, like I said, I didn't start turning a lot of stuff on until Saturday night. Sunday's when I started really turning everything on, and I maybe could have started watching anime, because I was also trying not to turn on the TV. But I don't know that I've had focus for that, because like I said, the brain's still weird. And the reason for that is not only the 80 hours just completely, you know, hitting the mental capacity is really hard, but water got shut off Tuesday night to Wednesday morning around 1 a.m., which makes it so when you don't have power and it's below freezing and you can't keep places warm, then the problem you naturally run into is bursting pipes. And that happened, that was being detected as happening on Tuesday, and individual buildings started being shut off before the entire apartment complex was shut off. And the department has been working really hard to get it, you know, back up and working. And part of what makes it difficult is the apartment complex isn't the only place trying to do that. There's a lot of homes, there's a lot of other apartment complexes, etc., etc. They got work on it started, I think, Saturday morning with property restoration people from outside of Texas. So it's kind of interesting, because if you've heard of some of the stuff with the Texas power grid stuff, you know, one problem is if the Texas power grid isn't generating enough power, then for a lot of countries or states or something like that, when that sort of stuff sort of happens, they try to, you know, sometimes they can pick up additional the opposite of that, additional electricity from surrounding states or countries or something like that. And Texas has very deliberately avoided that. It sounds like part of that is to avoid federal regulations. There could be an element of independence, and maybe all of that would be fine if it actually, you know, worked through the disaster like maybe it really should have, but didn't. And, you know, regardless of what we see about that, the point is, of all the things that could have done to alleviate the situation, one of the things was, one of the reasons it became a problem is because Texas was avoiding getting help electrically from other states. And the ironic thing is, these property restoration people, from talking to a couple of them, it sounds like, you know, they're not from the States. So basically, in order to fix the problems caused by the lack of electricity and the willingness to go out of state, people from out of state have been brought in, which is a form of true irony. You know, it's kind of, you know, you have to look at some of it from certain perspectives. And, you know, obviously there's other things where it's like, well, these plants that failed when things got cold, some of them just should never have been allowed to be in that bad of a position to begin with. But, you know, it's still, you can look at it as the lack of getting help from outside the state has caused the need to bring in help from outside the state. Which is kind of funny. It's just supposed to be a funny observation, not a telling one, per se. So take that with the appropriate grain of amusement, as opposed to how dare they, or something like that. But yeah, so, you know, they've been working on just getting everything ready. Part of the problem with getting water back here to this apartment has mostly been that things got out of control enough Tuesday night to Wednesday that the apartment for the entire apartment complex, it was shut off. Now there's 2 phases, and each phase was shut off. But the point is, in order to turn things back on, because there are known burst pipe problems, and it's known that they don't know all the knowns, the first thing they had to do was wait for things to thaw so they could actually shut off every single building, then turn the water on for the entire complex, and then turn it on per individual building. And of course, that required, since some of the shut-off valves were broken, not just frozen, they also had to replace those. So yesterday is when they actually first started trying to turn on water. And I'm in a building that's pretty close to the apartment office, so I think there was something of an attempt to turn it on for us. I say something because they have us having all the things open a little bit. So the idea is when the water starts flowing, the pressure has a place to go, but there isn't enough demand to pull water that it creates a reverse pressure problem that causes pipes to burst. So they're trying to find a balance there of getting all the air out of the system while there. So it should also mean that when water turns back on, I will know, not because there will be a constant thing, but because there will actually start to be water trying to flow through the pipes, and I'll probably just get the initial spray you see whenever water is shut off and then turned back on, or something like that. And that might last for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes or something. Depends. It depends on how much it takes to get everything through the system. But the point is, I never saw any of that stuff, but I did have a neighbor I heard outside tell them to shut the water off, which means they had tried to turn something on. My guess is sprinkler system is slightly different from the water running into our stuff, because I think most of the burst pipes were sprinkler system stuff. And this guy was apparently being rained on. I don't know the full details, but I do know it did mean that there was something sort of like an attempt to start our building, or maybe it wasn't as turned off as they thought it was. Some parts of it were maybe still on, and they realized, okay, we got to address those before we can actually turn building 2 on. So in theory, today there is maybe going to be another attempt to turn this building on, but for the most part, there's some buildings they've been able to turn on, but it's moving very slow, and that makes sense. Like, it's moving at a faster pace than I would have guessed, but I was kind of hoping maybe they knew what they were talking about a little bit better and could, and maybe they had a better just overall estimate because of that. So, the long of it is, I've got stored up water. I haven't been using up the resources they have out there for people. So that gives other people who really needed a good chance. So like, I've got the bathtub full of water for flushing my toilet. I've got an entire big pot, my biggest pot full of boiled water there. Although the boiled water notice is starting to go down in the area, so what I really just need is for water to start running again so I can eventually start taking a bath or a shower. Yeah, good thing this only records video and audio, right? And then eventually, once they give the go-ahead, dishes, because the last thing I did before power went out was I started my dishwasher, like literally a minute or 2 before power went out. It's full of dirty dishes. It means I don't have full access to all of my dishes, and since I don't have running water, I can't manually clean them, at least not without using up my drinking water. But it would also be nice to do some laundry, just because trying to manage things in this situation, there's some laundry that's become questionable. I do wonder if I will last to my normal time. I mean, y'all can tell I'm pretty in survival mode, because normally on this Tuesday I would be not clean shaven, because I never actually shave, but I would be buzzed as of the previous night, but I've not even done that. I walked to H-E-B. There's plenty of food in there. The shelves are not completely stocked, but they are nowhere near as empty as they were when COVID started, so it's like there's plenty to eat, but there's not a lot of motivation for me to go out and buy stuff, because if I buy stuff and I bring it here, if I don't bring in water with whatever I'm buying, then I'm encouraging myself to eat food here that causes me to need to drink more water. That, it's a vicious cycle. the good news, it should be a lot easier for me to find water now, because yesterday I kind of became aware of where the Austin water boiled water notice map is, and the green areas where the water is considered safe is, you know, grown from the central area to encompass past my area into the neighborhoods past my area. So the restaurants right next to me should be able to just use the tap water again, which means all the fountain drinks become available. Now, I'm not a big soda drinker. In fact, the big problem going to HB, there's plenty to... You could buy stuff to drink there, no problem. The main issue is, you know, all the stuff that I really wanted. I wanted water. I like water. Water's very refreshing. All the stuff with sugar in it just makes me think, it'll make me a little more thirsty, maybe. There was maybe some light lemonade that might have been okay, but there's all this sparkling water stuff, which is water with stuff added to it, and I don't know. For me, if the fountain drinks are working, it means the water nozzle's working, and that's really what I want to do. So, when I go out, I'll probably be getting a large water or 2 large waters or something. But it does mean that I can go back to hitting my normal restaurants, I think, because I can do that, regardless of whether or not water gets turned back on here or not. So let's see, I mentioned the interesting thing about on Tuesday I walked to Target even though there was no power. On Wednesday there was no power or water at my place, but there was power at, so I ended up walking to Saltgrass Steakhouse, which was really nice. So in the middle of fucking freezing cold, no power, no water, I was able to go to a steakhouse and have a nice steak dinner. And yes, you can bet that I tipped them pretty well, because I was very appreciative. My friend brought some food on Thursday, which was appreciated. I had plenty to eat here, but you know, not having to eat the stores here is always good, especially since that, again, you know, he was able to bring a bottled water that he brought from Panda Express here, and you know, it was tasty. It was nice. And Friday, normally I watch anime with my Friday friend, and this time we just ended up not doing that, mostly because the both of us are still in a state where we don't have water. He's at another apartment complex, but you know, it's one of those things where resources are a little tight, not so much that we can't get together, but enough that it's like, it's nice if he doesn't hang out in my place, because if he has to use the bathroom, or if he gets thirsty and he uses up whatever water he brings, then you know, he doesn't have to wonder whether or not he has to drink for me, and I don't have to wonder whether or not the water I have is going to last with him coming in drinking a cup or not. So hopefully by this coming Friday things will be good, especially since My Hero Academia is a pretty high priority watch. It didn't end at the best place, but it didn't end at a bad place per se. It ended at a place where you're like, you got to see some of the awesome that you really wanted to see. So I'm glad to have the chance to see more of that. Oh well, that's a broad update of stuff. It's been weird. I think the weirdest thing is I have a dental cleaning appointment tomorrow, but I haven't been brushing my teeth because the lack of running water makes me afraid to use my water for that purpose. So, strange times. I hope the rest of this year is very uninteresting. No noteworthiness. But yeah, there you go. So yeah, you know, remember, take all this as me just complaining here on camera. There's really not, you know, I'm definitely not the worst one out, because, you know, if they turn water back on here in this building, well, they're already targeting getting water back on here in phase 1 before phase 2. So the people in phase 2 still don't have water. Some of them even lost water before power was lost, so they're definitely in a much more of a survival mode. But this is why I haven't been using potential sources of water that they could be using. So they can go to the apartment office and pick up supplies there. They can grab water from the pool to flush their toilets if that's what they need. And I think if we have water running in some buildings, we're probably getting further away from needing to do all that. Times. Well, I was probably trying to end this video. So hopefully, if things have been better for y'all, or any of y'all that have been affected by this stuff too, hopefully y'all are surviving and, you know, getting past it. Y'all, have a nice week.